International marketing is when you are present in different international markets. And then the way we define international markets is based on geographical locations and national boundaries, basically. So, for example, you're an American company doing business in Mexico or Canada or Guatemala. That would be international marketing. Global marketing, on the other hand, is more of a philosophy. The way you look at, globalization and the new or the modern customer and how they interact with each other. So you look at the globe, and then you decide, okay, this is a market that I can segment based on different criteria, including international boundaries, namely countries. So, but that is not my main perspective. When I look at, say, we talked about some examples of global marketing success stories. Say, for example, Nike, or you mentioned Apple, or McDonald's. So these brands, they look at the market, they segment it effectively. Now, sometimes the segmentation is based on countries, but when you have a global marketing perspective, you go beyond country of origin or country of residence for your marketing segmentation. You basically look at behavioral variables and how say, for instance, you might be looking at the global market and then decide that, well, there are certain people or customers in Mexico and in Canada that behave very similarly. Now, to me, segmentation is going to be more effective if I look at that behavioral trait rather than location for segmentation. So again, even though I'm looking at international markets, now the fact that certain customers in Canada and Mexico behave similarly makes me put them in the same cluster under a different framework than just countries. Again, sometimes you're using country of residence or where you are as a customer is also helpful, specifically if your goal is to make customizations in the distribution distribution mix, or just your supply chain. So to get more specific, I'm going to go over some of these some examples and specific cases. So again, as we talked about it, no direct foreign marketing is you're not actively cultivating customers outside the country. Now, sometimes, again, I told you random reasons make you be present in the market. Just somebody bought your products and then took them to a different country. And the way sales is done is through companies or foreign customers themselves, not that you are hiring them. So you're not, again, you don't have a sales team, you don't have salespeople, you don't have channels of distribution. Whatever happens to your products in that country is done through foreign channels, through foreign salespeople, without your involvement, without your decision. So basically, you have gave up ownership in the supply chain. So, and that happens sometimes, even in a local supply chain. For example, sometimes your goal in the supply chain is the manufacturer of product A or B, and then once you're done with that, you give up ownership, you give up control in the form of, okay, I sell it to you as a distribution company or as a intermediary company, and then you will be responsible for everything else, including your new profit margin, including promotion in the supply chain, including trade promotions, consumer promotions, and so on. So sometimes you don't. Sometimes you say, well, you know what? I'm going to be obviously when you give up control or give up ownership, you also give up responsibility. Basically, so you know what? I'm guaranteed this small profit margin, but it's a positive margin, so I'm done. But sometimes you take responsibility, also maximizing or increasing your profit margin in the supply chain, and also you have a bigger impact in the promotion and the distribution decisions and everything else involved. So no direct foreign marketing necessitates no active involvement in those decisions. Seems like this is not a great idea when it comes to what we call integrated, distribution channels or integrated marketing communications, for instance, because you might, once you give up control, if a vendor or a store in a different country is selling your products using their own distributions, using their own incentives, including sales promotions, discounts, then it might affect your brand in the long term. Again, seems like no direct or foreign direct marketing is a choice for companies that, number one, are not necessarily concerned with their integrated branding image or brand image. Also, they can't afford, meaning they don't care. So the brand is not that big yet, or doesn't have a specific structure or what we call brand architecture that needs consistency. So sometimes you're just okay with your brand or your products being used or being sold in a high risk distribution channel because you might go big. So we have some anecdotes and stories, cases that we can look at indicating this, that some brands and companies started with no active involvement. So they basically said, whatever happens, happens. And then sometimes good things happen. And then now you can be more involved or actively involved in your foreign marketing efforts. So again, if you gain popularity or brand reach or brand impact, it's going to be through third-party websites, salespeople, distribution channels, promotion ideas, and so on. Now, infrequent, sometimes companies use this as a strategic tool, meaning for, again, whatever reason, and these reasons are debatable, because sometimes you decide not to be actively present in specific markets. Now, think about individual brands or people, personal brands. So for instance, we have celebrities on Instagram or different social media that are, they have a followership and they can have an impact and, influence their fans basically. But not all those celebrities have have the same approach to their level of involvement in influencing their market base or customer base, if you will. Now, the reason for that is, again, sometimes it's just random reasons, but in most cases, these are managed by, marketing companies, basically. If your strategy, your long-term strategy for brand, expansion is, you have specific goals in mind in terms of, your brand image, in terms of the ideas that you have, in terms of the product lines you want to expand to. So sometimes you just decide actively to be infrequently marketing yourself, and the reasons for that are so there are some legit reasons for that. For example, think about two aspects of any brand. One is visibility. One is I'm going to add them here. So there are two different aspects of any brand that can be so if you look at these two, visibility and availability, these are two decisions that you, as a marketer, need to make for your brand. So now, how are they different? So visibility is the extent to which you want your brand to be seen in different promotion channels by customers. So when we talk about infrequent marketing, so sometimes you make a decision intentionally to be visible in a selective way. And again, the reasons for that we can discuss. So as I mentioned earlier, so it might have something to do with your brand image. might have something to do with your positioning, with your future ideas for product extensions or brand extensions, the kind of market you want to be, or the kind of niche market you want to be promoting yourself in. So, and sometimes, again, infrequent marketing is a result of lazy planning or lack of ambition or something like that. So right now I'm talking about the former, where you decide to be infrequently marketing your products. Now, when it comes to international markets, it's the same principle. And I'm going to talk about some reasons why. So let's talk about these two factors first: visibility, availability. Visibility, the extent to which your customers notice you, your brand, cues about your products and services, can see messages, marketing messages on, say, social media, print media, and so on. Availability is related. It's not the same thing though. So availability is this: if I as a potential customer want to purchase your product or or consume your products and services, how easily available are they? And I'm going to give you some examples of how these two might be different. For example, if you think about a 2x2 grid, so we have two dimensions, visibility on one dimension or one axis, availability on the other one. We can create 4 cells, and we have basically high visibility, high availability, high visibility, low availability, low visibility, low availability, low availability, high visibility. So again, if I was not wrong, so the 4 combinations are all possible. Now, let's think about brands or products that are visible but not available. So, for example, there are fashion brands that you are familiar with because of different, say, advertising campaigns, or they're brands that are recognizable. Yet, if you decide to buy something from that brand in Fayetteville, they're simply not available. So you go to the mall, we have a certain number of brands available. So if you want to purchase them, you have to go online. Maybe it takes time. Sometimes even the online option is not there. So there's a very famous brand, say American brand. You live in China, and then the brand is simply not available there, neither online nor physically present there. So now, this is an example of high visibility, low availability, meaning it's a recognizable brand that I simply don't have access to here. There are some brands, for example, there's some French car brands, for instance, that are not available in the US simply. Or you go to certain countries, there are car brands that are not available there. Yet recognizable, absolutely. Available, no. What are the reasons? Well, some reasons are the marketer's decisions. Some reasons are environmentally related. So now sometimes we have low visibility, high availability. Now, a very good example of this is anything related to, say, for instance, law enforcement as a service, or as a sector. Or think about insurance, or funeral services, things like that. They're easily available. If you need any help, or say if you call 911, you can get cops will show up, and if there's something happens, firefighters and everything. Yet they don't actively promote the idea, right? Or we are here. If anything bad happens to you, we are here. So visibility is low, availability is high. Insurance, another example. If you need to buy a car, or if you rent a new apartment, they ask you to get renter's insurance or other insurance. Now you look around, you don't see any insurance stores or companies, right? However, you can just easily go online or call a number and then get insurance. So highly available, not visible. Now, international markets, you need to make a decision which one of these is you. So if you're just being lazy in your marketing efforts, that is basically you're reducing your visibility, not because it's a good thing. Sometimes some brands, they choose to not be present in certain countries or certain locations for exclusivity reasons, for instance. An example would be, any upscale fashion brand. So Louis Vuitton, for example, is not available in every country, right? Well, that decision is a decision related to high visibility, low availability. So do they want their brand to be recognized? Absolutely. Do they want their brand to be necessarily present? No. So that would be, again, sometimes they might have a show or a fashion show in a specific location. So it's going to be an example of infrequent foreign marketing. Now, that example is an example of strategic infrequent marketing, as opposed to, oh, we're just lazy, or as opposed to, let's see what happens, or as opposed to, let's see if we have seasonal or irregular demand. So understanding these different types of demand is also very important. When you choose to be low, in the low visibility, high visibility, low availability cell, that requires a good understanding of different demand types. Again, we can review demands or different types of demands from a microeconomics book or maybe principles of marketing. But remember, sometimes this irregular or infrequent foreign marketing is the result of irregular demand. Again, irregular demand would be something like the pandemic. Whatever the pandemic has caused the demand side to change, that would be irregular demand. Compare that to, for example, the amount of water people consume, right? Usually not irregular. So again, these two factors, I want you to pay attention to visibility and availability. They are not necessarily the same. I want you to think about international brands and assess these two dimensions for them. So high visibility, low availability. All the four possibilities can be basically, again, if high availability, high visibility, a good example would be McDonald's, right? Highly recognizable, available everywhere. High visibility, low availability, say Louis Vuitton. Low visibility, high availability, that would be, again, an international insurance provider, travel insurance. You travel to different parts of the world, different customers from different countries, going to different countries. Now you are a provider of insurance that is, not necessarily known by customers, but you're easily available and accessible at airports, online, and so on. Now, low visibility, low availability. This is probably, again, not the most favorable combination of the two dimensions. So it seems like this particular combination is an indicator of decline or an indicator of low attractiveness in that market or sector. Again, you can think about a brand or company that does this effectively, and that would be exceptional. So now regular foreign marketing. So again, our discussion in this course is going to be, as I mentioned, more concerned with this mode of international marketing, and then specifically we'll talk about global marketing and looking at the whole global market as the same customer pool, and then dissecting it or basically segmenting it based on variables, including psychographic or behavioral, as well as, of course, demographic, which includes national boundaries and countries. Sorry if you hear some extra noise, because I think something's going on outside class. It's pretty loud. I don't know if anyone can you hear the extra noise from the other room, or Is it okay?
No, I can't.
No, I don't hear anything.
Yeah, it sounds just fine to me.
Yeah, again, because there, so something is going on. It's pretty loud for me. I don't know if you're hearing the same thing. So regular foreign marketing. Now, when we talk about regular, we basically emphasize the active involvement of the brand. So that is what we mean by regular. It means it's not the result of irregular demand and maybe seasonal, maybe again irregular for, say, for example, the economy is different, or there's a recession, or there's a pandemic, or some new government, or some new tariffs, or treaty being signed. So those create irregular demand. Regular foreign marketing, on the other hand, is basically, including all those. So whatever happens to the environment, I'm going to be present, yet I will customize the marketing mix. So that is a decision, as opposed to, okay, if specific combinations of variables in the environment are present, I will be catering to the needs of customers. This is different. This says, well, whatever happens, I will customize the marketing mix. I will make adaptations, not for specific combinations only. So, as you see in the slides, a firm with permanent productive capacity devoted to production of goods and services to be marketed in foreign markets is an active participant in the international marketing scene. Now, when we talk about different market entry or new market entry modes, this is going to be more clear for you. So remember right here that we have an entry mode called FDI, foreign direct investment. So that would be corresponding directly to this mode of operation. So when you're regularly involved in foreign marketing, so one implication is maybe you are doing or using FDI, foreign direct investment. So market entry, again, remember, as opposed to irregular or infrequent, also no foreign marketing. Regular foreign marketing means that you've made a decision to be present in the market. Now, that decision has implications. So again, that one of the types of decisions, or one of the modes of entry, as I said, is foreign direct investment. So when we talk about that, we get back to this and the implications, because when you do foreign direct investment, or you're regularly marketing in foreign segments, you need to make decisions about all aspects of your marketing mix. For example, if I have salespeople, do I hire expats, or do I hire locals, or do I bring my own salespeople from, say, if I'm an American company in Mexico, do I hire Mexican salespeople? Do I bring American salespeople, or do I hire Canadian salespeople and train them to operate in Mexico? So decisions for your employee hiring, recruitment, and training, that is something that needs to be made. So again, as you see here, you can, this applies not only to salespeople, but also anything else in the supply chain. So when it comes to your distribution channels, do you hire local distribution companies? Do you bring your own trucks and systems and everything? Do you build new warehouses, or do you use existing ones? So with regular foreign marketing, you need to make these decisions. Now, the extent of so there are a few factors that determine these decisions. One is related to the regulatory aspect of the foreign market. So sometimes you simply can't, or are not allowed to have your own, say, for example, distribution network. You have to hire local companies. Sometimes you can, but it would be a cultural problem for you to communicate in the supply chain. Just imagine you enter a new country, and then the law allows you to have your own network of distribution, or have your own say, warehouses and trucks and drivers and everything. Now, the problem might be you are not just welcome in that local network. You can't communicate. There, say, for example, in some countries with what we call, so when it comes to communication style, not all countries are the same. So we call some cultures high context, some cultures low context cultures. So in high context cultures, basically what is said is not necessarily what is meant, and this applies to business as well. So you might go to a certain host country, the laws and regulations are okay. You're allowed to have your own, employees, or bring your own employees, or have your network of distribution. However, because of the high context culture there, which is basically an indicator of, the less reliability or little, or the role of laws and regulations and contracts basically not being as reliable or as solid, as robust as in a low context culture. For example, the US culture, American culture is a low context culture, meaning whatever is said is that. So if you have a contract, that's it. All you need to do is just follow the terms and the conditions. So once the contract is signed, you know exactly what is going on. In some countries, it's not like that. Some countries, they don't even have a contract. They don't believe in a contract. They say, oh, we trust you, or we don't trust you. Or if there is a contract, there's so many ways to bypass or to veto the contract. So again, think about those aspects. Is your distribution network, does it allow, for example, your system of operation, or is it just not welcome? So that's another aspect of the marketing mix, distribution. You need to make decisions on all of these. Remember, our goal is to look at the resources that we have and then allocate them accordingly. So these are all resource allocation decisions. Should I invest in building relationships with local trucks or stores or whatever? Sometimes you don't need to. So also, again, you need to make a decision for your production as well, and manufacturing. For instance, one example, I think we have a BMW factory in North Carolina, right? So if you think about this example, this would be an example of regular foreign marketing. So BMW knows it's going to be present in the US regardless of whatever. So if the laws change, they make adaptations. If the economy changes, they make adaptations. If overall demand factors change, they make new products. So if you look at BMW and Mercedes, for example, in the past 20 years, so one major product adaptation they've made as a result of these factors has been the introduction of these small cars, or a new class of cars that would not have been imaginable 30 years ago. So a lot of people wouldn't have imagined that Mercedes would have these very compact, fuel efficient cars. Now they do. So those are product adaptations they've made, mostly in response to foreign market demand. So again, if you want to compete in the US market, and you do want to compete in the US market as an auto brand, guess what? We have Honda and Toyota that have positioned themselves as fuel efficient, compact cars, durable, reliable cars. Now, again, you are Mercedes or you are BMW, you're generally regarded as a high-end brand, yet you can't just lose market share, because a lot of people are making decisions that are related to so basically the spectrum of these or the spectrum on which these different class of car exist is not a very clear-cut spectrum. So it is by definition a spectrum, meaning you might be a Mercedes customer, but you might have a kid in your family. Suddenly, you think about other factors that are secondary decision makers or secondary influences in the decisions you need to make. So now you might consider switching to Honda, even if you are loyal to the Mercedes brand. Now, seeing that, Mercedes decides, okay, you know what? I know I might be damaging my brand image, the luxurious brand image, yet I can't, the market share loss is going to be so significant that I can't just ignore that category, compact, small, fuel efficient cars. So again, if you think about that, that's an example of making a decision as a result of foreign markets forces indicated in your product mix. So you literally have new products made for this reason. Again, the same approach or the same thinking or the same decision making goes or applies to any component of the marketing mix, not just production, not just your processes, not just your people, also your products, pricing as well. Some countries, they basically, they have laws and regulations restricting, say, for example, for some countries, if you're Mercedes and you want to compete with the local market or in the local market with the local brands, so there's basically 100% or sometimes 200% tariff on your product. Now, pricing is going to be affected. Again, it's not your direct decision, but you need to make pricing adaptations to reflect that environmental factor. So again, regular foreign marketing means that you're constantly looking at the product mix, you're looking at the distribution mix, you're looking at your promotion mix, and making decisions or adaptations to reflect the needs of the foreign marketing scene or international marketing scene. So how about, let's talk about global marketing for a second. How about this? How about the fact that you are a global brand, meaning you look at the whole universe as your customer pool. Now, in this case, you need to be a little more consistent in whatever adaptation you make, because again, if you're operating in multiple international markets in multiple countries, for example, and you are not a global brand, your adaptations in country A might not be affecting your adaptations in country B. Now, once you're a global brand, for example, if you're Apple, you make a slight change to your operating system or technology, it's going to affect the whole, global customer pool. So in this case, your adaptations are actually you have less local advantage. You can't just say, you know what, I'm going to add this feature to my iPhones in India and not to China, for instance. I mean, they still make adaptations in the form of, some apps or language services or specific features. But again, you can't customize like an auto brand can, because if I'm driving a car in New Zealand, the steering wheel is on the other side of the car. However, I'm not going to just drive that car directly or immediately to New York. It's impossible. But if I'm using a technology or if I'm connected to an internet network, then I can't say, well, you know what, the protocols are different, you can't connect. So once you're a global brand, so your reach is more, so you have higher reach, which also means you can't afford to be too specific in certain adaptations. Again, makes your job more difficult. If something goes wrong, the negative impact is going to be, you can't afford to have, say, for example, a PR issue in country A, thinking that you can take care of it in country A. So having a global marketing perspective sort of limits your flexibility when it comes to making adaptations in everything. Again, pricing, for instance. There's some brands that operate in multiple, separate markets, international markets. Pricing might be slightly different, or customers might not be aware of it, or there's a good justification. I gave you an example, or there are tariffs, or this or that. But again, if you're a global brand, inconsistencies in any component in the marketing mix, products, pricing, and promotion, are going to be more easily noticed and detected And then if there's anything negative going on, the impact is going to be significant. Because remember this, as you increase your scale of operation, well, obviously we have advantages. We have scale related advantages. You reduce your cost. A slight increase in your profit margin is going to mean a lot of revenue. So your cash flow is going to be positively affected. However, when it comes to negative factors, when it comes to problems in the system, there's more at stake. So that's the problem too. So, and today with technology and communication and everything, so this concept of ICM, IMC, integrated marketing communication, that means that you simply can't afford to be inconsistent in anything, anywhere. And once you do that, again, we've seen examples. The CEO of a certain company says something that's going to affect its stock prices. It's going to affect how our customers react. I mean, I was checking Twitter, I think this morning or maybe last night. I mean, I check Twitter every morning, but I think I saw this either this morning or last night. So one of the trending keywords or hashtags was delete Facebook, right? So if you think about this, well, delete Facebook. Facebook is a global brand. Facebook is a global marketer. Now, they make adaptations, right? They make adaptations mostly in the user experience, the service they provide, the experience that you have is highly adaptable. Now, their distribution system, basically because an online product is very similar, so they use the same distribution system anywhere. Anything happens to Facebook, the impact is going to be global. Now, we don't know exactly why this is. Maybe there are privacy concerns that customers have had, or something happened, with the elections. So whatever the anecdotes are, now the reactions are going to be global, meaning, customers around the world might say, oh, maybe I should delete Facebook too, or what is going on. Now, whereas imagine if you're operating locally, something goes wrong somewhere, you can take care of it locally. So again, being a global brand or being a global marketer doesn't mean everything is to your advantage. So there's more at stake, and you can't use certain promotional tactics. You can't just be creative when it comes to launching products or testing new ideas. So again, even being a global marketer, you have to deal with certain limitations. Again, mainly the idea that because your scale is large, because your operation volume is significant, even the slightest negative response from the market is going to have huge consequences on your brand image, is going to have huge consequences on your stock prices and overall revenue and your financial performance as well. Remember this, you've probably heard this before. There's something called, there are different ways we can address this, but the basic idea comes from loss aversion. Is anybody familiar with loss aversion?
No, I don't think I've heard of that.
No, sir.
Anybody? Have you heard the loss aversion? You know what the idea is? Because the same applies to managing customer perceptions and basically your brand image. It's the same concept applied to a different context. Has anybody heard the loss aversion? So loss aversion is the idea that it's a psychological phenomenon, basically. So the idea is this: if I find a $100 bill on the way to class, or if I lose $100 bills that I already had, so the pain of losing the $100 bill or $100 is going to be, absolutely speaking, is going to be greater than the joy of or the pleasure of finding $100. Now, this idea is basically an asymmetry between gains and losses. So basically arguing that losses they loom larger in your analysis. Losses they have a stronger impact than gains. Again, you might be, well, this idea has so many implications. So when it comes to customer management, CRM, customer management, customer relationship management, when it comes to brand management, so the implication is this, and you've probably heard this before, that having one dissatisfied customer is the impact of having one dissatisfied customer is probably equal to having 5 satisfied customers. Or for each dissatisfied customer you have, you want to make sure you have like 5 satisfied customers. So those numbers are not accurate, and that's not the point. The idea is this. The idea is when your operation increases because of this, and there's another name for this observation, it's called negativity bias. So the negativity bias means that we pay more attention to negative, think about the news industry, think about media. So if you open any website on your phone or computer right now, or go to Microsoft News page, and I see that's my homepage when I open my Microsoft Edge browser. So all I see is, oh, this person was abducted, this person is missing, there was an accident here, there was an earthquake there. Now, it seems like the universe is just going crazy, right? Well, in reality, well, for every one accident, there are probably 10,000 non-accidents, meaning, well, this person was safe, this person is recovered, this person didn't get the virus, this company is surviving, this restaurant is doing good, this city is prospering, and so on. The problem is, if you just use these as your headlines, people don't care. The moment there's something negative, people pay attention to. And then this has a lot to do with our survival and our evolution, which basically, I mean, before, or when we were, even today, paying attention to negativity and potential danger means we can survive, or might mean survival for us. Therefore, we've developed or evolved this sense of, an overemphasis on anything negative. Who's doing what? What is missing? What went wrong? Who is sick? What country? Again, if you think about it, there's so many just ramifications of this. Now, for us, the ramification is the fact that when you, and this again, obviously, might have an exponential effect. And when scale increases, the negativity bias could have a compound effect, and then you might just lose everything. So again, being a global brand or being a global marketer has sort of dictates limitations as well. So that's a decision that you will make. So one solution for this, one tactic would be using different brands for the same product or service. And a lot of companies are doing this. A lot of, I guess I talked about food companies and also maybe cosmetic companies. It seems like a lot of these consumer brands that we are familiar with, they're all owned by the same country, same companies. Now, one reason those companies are using different brands is not being prone to this, being immune to the idea. If somebody has, imagine there's only one brand of shampoo or face lotion or whatever. Now, there's one customer who uses it and has a severe allergic reaction, right? Now, this is going to make news. But if there's only one brand, it means there's a lot at stake. If I have 15 different brands, very similar, same formula maybe, same company, just different brands. So people might say, oh, even though you have a reaction to this, or this other product is actually very good, it's good for sensitive skin. So that would be diversifying your brand portfolio under the same product category. Again, same company, same product, same formula, same very similar products, yet different brands. So that would be an answer to this problem. Again, you got to think about the implications of your level of involvement in foreign markets. It seems like so far everything has pros and cons. And every mode of operation has pros and cons, and you are the one who makes the decision. So again, we talked about the difference between international marketing and global marketing. International marketing, seems like when countries or national boundaries, they provide a very solid basis for segmentation. International marketing, meaning just looking at multiple different countries as segments, that would make a lot of sense. Again, product category has a lot to do with this. Say, for instance, thinking about an example where this is, food is probably one example, right? Because people have developed different tastes in food. So if you are a global food or a food company that operates, internationally, you might just be fine making adaptations based on local needs, and that's it. Some foods are not even known or used in certain countries or specific parts. I mean, religion plays a role. Religious guidelines, dictate what you can or cannot eat or how you eat it. Culture plays a big role, and also access to local ingredients and things like that. So when it comes to something like food, where consumption is local and implications are local, so you just can't store your food and then let somebody download it on the internet, right? So for that reason, you can just be fine operating in multiple international markets. Again, McDonald's is also a food company, but McDonald's is competing as a brand. Basically, what makes McDonald's successful is not the food itself, even though they also make local adaptations. It's the idea that their brand is recognized everywhere. People go anywhere, they see McDonald's, they feel safe, or at least there's a restaurant that I recognize. So again, just think about all your components, all the components in your marketing mix, decide what adaptations to be made. We talk about these adaptations. Basically, the second half of this course, we will talk about specific strategies and tactics and tools and techniques for making these adaptations. So we talk about, for instance, product strategy, how to make product adjustments or adaptations as a result of, for example, cultural factors, or making product adaptations because of legal factors, and so on. Any comments, questions about different modes of international marketing involvement? So again, this is why is this important? Because when you do strategic planning, understand, I told you something very important. You can use this descriptively or prescriptively. So descriptively, it means analyzing these, understanding the differences. You can analyze your current situation and then decide or identify where you belong and what is your current level of involvement. Prescriptively, you can decide if you want to change this. And again, sometimes you just don't want to. Sometimes, gave you some examples, some products or brands, they choose to be not present in specific countries for strategic reasons, for exclusivity reasons. Remember the discussion we had about visibility, availability. Sometimes you want to, you just can't. So then you need to realize what is holding you back. Is it not being able to enter the distribution channel, not being able to compete with local products? Is it your price? So again, description of your current situation and also a prescription for what needs to be done can be done through an analysis of this different levels of marketing, foreign marketing or international marketing involvement. So there's this determines what we call the international marketing orientation. And orientation is basically your general tendency or the philosophy of marketing. So companies there's something called market orientation or the marketing concept, or also customer orientation or customer centricity. So some countries, this is an actual metric that could be used to differentiate between companies or to measure the extent to which companies pay attention to the needs of customers as opposed to their own plans or products or ideas. So when it comes to international marketing, same thing applies. So what is your baseline international marketing orientation? Now, if I can give you names of companies and ask you to what extent do you think this company is customer centric or marketing oriented? Or when I say market, this is an actual term. Marketing oriented means, or market oriented means that, or the marketing concept idea means that you put customer first and then you create products and services to address their needs. Now, if I give you a list of companies, say for example, if I say American Airlines, Delta, Apple, Samsung, McDonald's, Fayetteville State University, the city of Fayetteville, these are brands. You can probably give me a pretty accurate assessment of the extent of market orientation or marketing concept orientation or customer centricity. Now, for international marketing, the same thing applies. So you identify the different modes of operation or involvement in international marketing. Now, for each company that you're looking at or your company, now the question is, what is your type and level of orientation? Are you a culturally oriented international marketer? Are you a geographically oriented international marketer? So basically the level of emphasis, the extent of importance you place on the different aspects of the marketing environment that result in these adaptations determines your marketing orientation, international marketing orientation. Again, remember, these two types of orientations are not mutually exclusive. You can be a customer-centric company, market-based or marketing concept-oriented company, yet and culturally oriented in your international marketing as well. So you need to identify and measure your international marketing orientation as well. So as you see, we have different approaches. We have cultural approach, environmental, and then it's basically going back to what we started this course with. So you look at the different components, you decide which component in the marketing environment, remember those: legal, political, socioeconomic, technological, cultural, and so on. Which component of the environment determines your dominant approach to international marketing? Again, the reason, because it's not easy to be equally to allocate your resources equally among all these different aspects of the environment is simply not possible. Again, it's very hard to be a world-class athlete and a musician and a scientist and a magician, right? So for companies, it's the same thing. Because your resources are limited, you can't just be equally oriented or pay attention to local factors, cultural factors, technological factors, and everything equally well. So for that reason, you need to make a decision. Again, which one is better? It's like asking which one is better, being a world-class musician or being a world-class scientist or being a world-class actor. But they could all be good. So, but there are differences. So you need to identify and measure your orientation as well. So basically, to reiterate, your international marketing orientation means which component of the marketing environment, technological, sociocultural, legal, is your number one priority when it comes to making adaptations. So again, some companies are culturally oriented in their approach. Some are legally oriented. Again, that's also another measure of companies' approach to foreign markets. So again, we have, if we get technical in this, there are assessment tools, there are scales, there are questionnaires, there are methodologies developed for assessing and measuring these. Just like we can measure, say for example, if you want to look at two different universities and decide to what extent these universities are student-oriented versus degree-oriented versus competition-oriented versus job market-oriented. Again, so these are four, I just made these up, but they're actually very, very relevant, right? Being in higher education, I can argue to you that all these four are important. Now, are all universities equally doing well in every aspect of the environment? Probably not. Some schools are more student oriented. Maybe they're a little detached from the job market. Some schools focus solely or mostly on the job market. They might say, well, because we're concerned with your chance of getting a good job, we can't make sure that we are giving you a very customized, experience. But we make sure that we give you these degrees and certificates and skills. So again, they're all good. Same thing applies to your orientation in international marketing. So again, throughout the course I will present to you different statistics and numbers. The goal of these is to, again, we don't need to memorize these. We don't need to make any specific decisions based on the numbers. However, I want you to have it just like the exercise we did on Thursday. I want you to have a sense of what is important, how to look up data, what are the implications, how can I relate the data to decision making. So for specific decisions, we need to look up specific data and marketing intelligence. So also, you need to have a general sense of the numbers and figures in your field, as opposed to, again, I think we did a good job of talking about some of this in our previous discussions. For example, GDP, global GDP is something that you need to pay attention to first, then break it down into different components. So imagine if there's 100 units of wealth or value created in the universe, then you can break it down based on countries, based on companies, based on product categories. Again, these are all the same. It's the same pie, and then you're basically breaking it down using different systems or different criteria. So that is something helpful. Again, being in business, we need to have a general sense of these numbers and figures. Obviously, specific industries have different ratios, but we might not know, sometimes a ratio of, say, for example, new products to existing products, basically the share of your new products or share of revenue of your new products, your overall revenue could be 10%, and that's considered a good number. In a different industry, it could be 50%, and it could be considered a bad number. So again, we can't have all the information simultaneously, but make sure you have some general sense first. When you specialize in a specific industry, then get the numbers and figures from those industries as well. Now, so this table talks about U.S. America's top trading partners. So again, if you look at the GDP, import, export numbers on all those lists, the U.S. is number one, or is like top 2, 3, if not number one. Now, if you, again, as I told you, the reason we're taking this approach is we are in the U.S. and then we're working, or we work for, or we will found American companies, right? So again, you can take a different approach. You can look at Japan as the original country, and then look at all these other countries as host countries. So these are the top, major countries that the U.S. is doing business with. Okay, and then we have some numbers. So Canada, China, again, these numbers they're not very recent. And during Trump administration, some of these numbers changed significantly because of new tariffs and regulations. Again, that would be a change in the regulatory environment, and then as a result, a change in a lot of these numbers. But again, this is 2015. We can look up the new numbers. So 2015, top trading partners for the US have been Canada, China, Mexico, Japan, Germany, South Korea, the UK, France, Brazil, and Taiwan. And then the numbers are in billions of dollars. So the first column, so the third column in the table, the first next to the right of the country, you see total trade. And then we have exports and imports and the balance. So the balance is basically the difference in export and import. And as you see, there's a negative balance for all of these companies. With the UK, it's almost zero. So a negative balance, it means you're importing more than you're importing more from these companies than these countries than you're exporting to. And again, it's for you to decide. The different, so there's only one exception I notice here. So Mexico, the balance is positive for the US. So basically there's more exports than imports. Now, there are different theories and philosophies and policies regarding these. Do you want to have a zero balance, negative balance, positive balance? And then these numbers will also be changed based on the way you measure these. If you remember when we talked about country of origin and then the brand, some companies could be considered American, but they're technically operating in a different country. So these numbers are not 100% clear cut either. But again, it gives you a sense of the size of operation. And then if you break down these, so something that could supplement this table would be, for example, breaking down these numbers into specific industries. So I'm pretty sure if you have, for instance, high-tech industry or technology, then the numbers would be drastically different, right? So the US exports a lot more than it imports from those countries. So also, this is another interesting table, talks about the nationality of the world's 100 largest industrial corporations. How's this measured? Simply by their sales, annual revenue. So again, annual revenue, if these companies are countries, annual revenues would be their GDP, essentially. So the nationality, as you expect, US is number one, but interesting thing, this table looks at past basically 5 decades, half a century, and then you can look at the number of the changes in these numbers. And so, for example, let's talk about some emerging economies. Trying to find China on the list of. So India, for example, or Brazil. So if you look at these numbers in, say, 1960s compared to 2015, so many more, almost double the number of the companies, the U.S. companies that are that form the top 100 largest companies in the. Mark, you have a question?
Yes, doctor. I see that these are recorded. How do we
Hello?
access these recordings?
I see a hand raised. If anybody has a question, please go ahead and ask your question. Mark, you have a question?
Oh, you couldn't hear me? I said, I see that these are recorded.
Okay.
How do we access?
So
the
again, as you
recording?
see, so these numbers represent so the share of each company in the top 100, each country in the top 100 largest companies globally. So as you see, the share of the US has decreased. Again, this doesn't necessarily mean that your overall role has decreased. Sometimes some of these companies have become so large, even though they count as one company. Say, for example, Amazon is still one company, Walmart is one company, Apple is just one company. So these are the number of companies that, right, yeah. So, so sometimes, again, sheer numbers are important, but also you can look at like the size of the share from global sales or global dollars, basically. But you see some trends, that the fact that some countries are emerging in the global economy. South Korea is an example. And the fact that the most changes has happened to the US. And again, it doesn't mean its overall impact has decreased. It simply means that we now have gigantic corporations in the US. So in 1975 or 1965, we probably had more smaller sized large companies. Again, there's still large companies, but not as huge as they are today. Today, we have a lot of, let's see, I see something in the chat. Okay, it seems like Mark is trying to ask a question. I did not hear.
Yes, is my audio not
so
working?
if you can hear us, so students are suggesting you can just type in your question. Mark, do you have a question for us?
Yes, is my audio not working? My audio's not working?
Let me see.
I've got my audio and video on. I guess other members can hear me in the class.
Okay, all right. I can hear you now. I think so I'm using a tripod. The tripod has decreased my volume. Sorry, can you go ahead and ask your question again?
Okay, I see that this is recorded. How do I access the recordings, previous recordings and this recording? I was looking
I'm going
at
to show you right now. Okay. Your volume is a little. All right. So, okay. So, I guess we're done with our discussion. Let me just show you on Canvas. So if you go to our homepage, this is the course. You go to the homepage. So this is our syllabus. So you can also access it through the syllabus link. You can just scroll down all the way to the end where you see you see our schedule. So these are the links to our previous sessions. So let me check, see if they're working. For example, if I yeah, so again, these are direct links, no password required, no signing required. So on the syllabus, which is accessible on the first page, also through the syllabus link, go all the way down to our schedule. Next to each date and then the topic, we have this link, watch recorded session. You can click on it. So it's usually, update is usually fast. So now, yeah, I need to just update the link for today and then the previous session. So right now you can access all the sessions until February the 11th. Can you access that, Mark? Can you find it on your computer?
Okay, just one moment. I was using the cell phone, so let's see if we can get it through here. Home, syllabus, all the way to the bottom. Okay. Introduction.
And if anybody,
Oh,
for
I see
whatever
it. I
reason,
see it
can't
now.
access these, just send me an email. I'll send you the direct links. But again, should be easy. Canvas, homepage, scroll down, last page. You see the schedule next to each.
I see it now. It's that I can access it. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Hey, I don't know, for whatever reason, I can barely hear you. I don't know if it's, my volume is also, I don't know, maybe I need to reset my, just my Zoom. All right, thank you, everybody. Remember, the assignment is due today. Just make sure you submit on Canvas on
Sir,
time. Yeah,
I have
so
a
again,
question.
it should be very easy. We talked about it so many times. I expect everybody to get a perfect grade on the assignment.
No,
Please
no,
do
no.
that. I'll see you guys on Tuesday next week. Enjoy your weekend. Be
Sir.
safe. The weather is not very good around the
He
country.
can't hear me.
Very, like barely. I don't know what. I can hear you now. Yeah. Can you go ahead and ask your question, please?
Okay, I sent you a message yesterday because I wanted to get the assignment done, but I wasn't sure about it. Also, if you have files of previous reports that I can go over to see exactly what you're looking for and how to accomplish it, because I don't want to wait to the last minute and not know what to do or how to do
So
it.
what part of the assignment is confusing or is not clear to you? Because again, we talked about it in class, the instructions are also clear. So you basically, so let me, so basically you look at this, you see this graph, or, so all you need to do for the first assignment is to look at the different aspects in the international marketing environment. So we've talked about most of them. So you can look at this, for example, or any other framework. So you look at foreign environment, uncontrollable variables. So you look at these, select 3 of these. So you basically say, okay, I'm looking at the auto industry to analyze the environment for the auto industry. I'm going to look at the political forces, economic forces, and technology forces. Okay, so these are your 3 choices for aspects or the variables in the environment. And then the second part of the assignment asks you to focus on each, and then for each one of these aspects, identify 3 metrics or KPIs. So for example, if you look at the economic environment, what are some metrics and indicators? Well, we have GDP, we have unemployment, we have interest rates, and so on. So again, it's for you to decide which one of these you want to look at. Again, if you want to read about each one, basically you can look at, for example, what are major economic indicators? What are major cultural indicators? What are major technology indicators? And this is pretty, again, the answers vary based on industry. For example, we don't have the answers in a table necessarily, or somewhere that you can just look up the answers, because it's based on what you want to do and then your specific industry. For example, if you're looking at higher education, right? But I want to analyze the global environment for higher education. So which one of these 3 do I think are relevant? So political, legal, probably not. When it comes to higher education, that wouldn't be my number 1. Level of technology, probably not, because in most universities around the world, we have very similar technology. How about competitive forces? Absolutely, because brands are important. If you're a recognized brand, if you're Harvard University, it's the competitive forces that determine your operations more than legal aspects. Culture, maybe yes, maybe not. Depends on how you, what field of study, for example, are you looking at? Are you looking at liberal arts, or are you looking at engineering programs? So you pick, for example, competitive, cultural, and economic forces. And then for competitive forces, we have, for instance, this model. Okay, you can use this for analyzing competitive environment. So again, it's a little, just it's your take on. It's like I send you a student and ask you to assess their level of how qualified do you think the student is for a certain role? And I want you to give me your feedback in a systematic way. For example, I want to ask you, how qualified do you think this person is for critical thinking? How qualified is this person for communication skills? Something like that. So we're analyzing the global environment. And then to do that, we focus on three variables that we think are, or three aspects that we think are important. For each aspect, we focus three different indicators or metrics, or again, KPIs, key performance indicators. Which part is it still not clear for you?
Well, what I did last night, and I wrote the pros and cons, and then I went to the qualitative and quantitative aspects. And then there's where I got stuck, because you're asking. So I just write the pros and cons of three of each of these, basically.
But
I don't wanna
that is not what we
overthink
need.
it.
So, for example, we talked about, because there is no pros and cons. So, can you give me an example? So, what are the pros and cons of
Well,
economic forces, for example?
the measurement, the influence, and the time frame. And then for the cons,
What are for the cons?
lagging indicators and what we need at the moment.
Right. No, that
Segmentation
is,
of
again,
data.
you're doing more than what we're asking. So
Well, that's
again,
what I'm-
you can talk about that, but it's not necessary. So just again,
I
are
overthink things. That's why that's why I ask the questions, because I always overthink the questions. And
right. No, this is simple. Again, it's good to do more, but make sure you do the things that are necessary first. So for this assignment, you just select three of these areas. So you say, for example, economic, cultural, technological. Okay, that's the answer to the first question. And then obviously I've asked you to select an industry for which you're doing this. Okay, so that's the first part. Now, what is the second part for each one? For example, for economic, instead of, as you've done, talking about the pros and cons of economic analysis, you just tell me what are three variables or metrics in economic analysis that I'm going to look at. What are three indicators? So you can say GDP, unemployment, inflation. That's it. For cultural analysis, so you can look at, for example, openness to new experiences, uncertainty avoidance. Again, these you can search somewhere. So, for example, what are some indicators or metrics in cultural analysis? You can just find it somewhere, but there are frameworks. But again, what you're doing, you're basically just being more foundational, which is good, but not necessary. Also, make sure you answer the question first, and then if you want to expand on your answer, absolutely.
I'm not trying to expand. I'm not trying to do more than I should. It just, that's what happens.
Right. No, I mean, just so again, I almost gave you the answer. So for the first part, your job is to select three of these forces that you see here that are the most relevant for your industry. Okay, the industry that you're interested in. Second part, for each of those three, you select another three indicators. So for example, if I'm analyzing the economic forces for a product or for an industry, how do I look at that? So you can say, well, I can look at unemployment rates. Is it 10%? Is it 20%? I can look at economic growth rates. That's another indicator. Just like this. So basically, we need 9 indicators and 3 categories. Simple.
For the last question, the last question was, is there previous files that you can show us about reports that have done or projects that have done in your class?
Yes, but that would be, I mean, that would be me giving you an answer to the question. So
That would be a whole
yes,
report.
but I prefer you do it yourself, and then I'll give you some feedback. So, because that would be me giving you a sample answer to the question. So again, I've used the same question for different sections of this course, so the answers are available. But again, I still think it's better for you to do it yourself first, and then again, I'm pretty sure there's no way you cannot answer this question effectively. So just
It's not
pick
the
3 of
question,
these.
it's the projects at the end of the class.
Oh, the project, yeah, absolutely. Before the
That's-
project, yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
that's what
I'll give you more.
That was the last
Again, don't worry
question.
about the project yet. Okay, we'll talk about everything that we need to do in this class in full detail, and I'll make sure everything is clear. We preview everything. So the project is one step at a time. We're not going to talk about the project now, because again, basically everything we do in class is going to be put together and create your final project. So I'll give you multiple samples. Again, I can barely hear you. That's why. So for the project, I'll give you multiple samples from previous semesters and from textbooks, so you have a good idea of how to format your answer. And absolutely.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you so much, everybody. See you guys on Tuesday. Again, be safe and enjoy your weekend. Goodbye.